Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. As I mentioned today, we focus on the role of mothers. And speaking of which, your question of the day this morning is, do we have absentee mothers today? If so, what is influencing this dynamic in parenting? Do we have absentee mothers today, and what is influencing this dynamic of parenting today? That hashtag is new normal, and of course you can give us a call using the numbers at the bottom of your screen. Before we get to that conversation, let's take a look at the effects of COVID-19 around the world, and this morning those numbers stand at 111,956,195 confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally. Out of that number, 87,323,043 have totally recovered from the same. And unfortunately, globally, we have lost 2,477,835 people. Now, in Kenya, well, the numbers as per yesterday's Ministry of Health briefing stand at 104,201 confirmed cases in the country. 85,577 have totally recovered from the same. And unfortunately, that number on those that are succumbing to COVID-19 seems to be going up and up every day. This morning, it stands at 1,823 people. Now remember, wear your mask, social distance, and of course wash your hands regularly with soap and water. And if you do not have that, make sure you use that alcohol-based sanitizer to ensure that we reduce the chances of contracting COVID-19. Now to some of the stories that are making headlines this morning. Now, cycling has taken off in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, during the coronavirus pandemic as residents seek ways to travel to work safe, keep fit, and cut transport costs. Despite this lack of bike lanes on most roads, many have taken up pedaling and dodging the city's notorious traffic jams.
The fear was there about trying to maneuver these roads of ours where the matatus are usually, the big percentage, the drivers are usually careless. They can push you off the road. They don't care about you. But I just look at the pros and cons. I'm much safer on a bicycle. I'm social distancing. If I don't show you the benefit of why I'm cycling, and why it's much safer and healthier for you, you won't see the benefit of it. Like for me personally, personal story, when I started in April until December last year, 2020, I had lost 20 kgs in that span. Just cycling, no gym, no running, no dieting.
In 2020, the sales were high compared to 2019 in terms of sales, because you find that people wanted to cycle more just to keep fit, to commute from work from point A to point B. And mostly since cycling is a sport, they wanted to keep fit because people were on lockdown.
COVID has been good for cycling. It has shown policymakers that people want to walk, people want to cycle. And they have to, whether they like it or not, they have to find a way of ensuring people can get to their destinations safe and sound. It's no longer us forcing ourselves to share roads with motorists. We do need a space dedicated specifically for cyclists and for pedestrians.
When an Algerian court sentences to death a jihadist for the kidnapping and beheading of French mountaineer Hervé Goudel 6 years ago after a high-profile one-day trial. It was a very important moment today. This is a very important day, it said Hervé Goudel's partner after the verdict. Karim Okara, one of Hervé's climbing guides, says, yes, we are relieved. Of course, it's been 7 years that we've been waiting for, and today we are discharged, it's a proof of our innocence, because we've had so many things that have been said about us, and today it's a relief, really a relief for everyone. I've just spoken with Javier's wife. Everyone is relieved, and definitely she is one of the most relieved. Back in the continent, and Zimbabwe begins its vaccination campaign using the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine, with Vice President and Health Minister Constantino Chiwenga first in line to take the job in a movement to instill confidence in the vaccine following reservations over the drug donated by China. Wrapped in white tarpaulin, the shipment of 200,000 doses, a donation from the Chinese government, arrived last week aboard the country's only working aircraft, that is an Air Zimbabwe Boeing 767.
I have received my COVID-19 vaccine jab. Together with my deputy minister and my staff, I urge all Zimbabweans to be vaccinated. My presence here today with some Ministry of Health officials, including my deputy, is to exhibit the government's confidence in the Sinopharm vaccine. My ministry conducted all scientific processes to ascertain the efficacy of Sinopharm vaccine, which was confirmed to be 79%.
In Kagara, central Nigeria, where dozens of school children have been kidnapped in the school raid, devastated families ask the government to do everything in its power to find their children. One father says he has not been able to sleep since the incident occurred. Nigerian security forces say they are tracking the armed gang behind the kidnapping after President Muhammadu Buhari ordered a rescue operation. The kidnapping in Kagara in central Niger state was the latest mass abduction in Nigeria, where criminal gangs known as bandits have stepped up violent attacks on communities. Gunmen in military uniforms raided the government science college in Kagara, killing one student and spiriting others into a nearby forest. According to officials, the kidnappers snatched 42 people, including 27 students, 3 teachers and other relatives of school staff, according to Niger state officials. Now to something that gives us focus to our conversation of the day. When one loses a spouse, the journey after is often a difficult one, characterized by making adjustments to accommodate the void left in their heart and indeed their household. It is a journey that tests and challenges their tenacity and most of all ability to step into the shoes of their gone partner in caring for the children. Our award-winning features reporter Rose Wangoi spoke to several widowers on the psychological effects of losing their partners and how they took up extra parental duties. Here is one of them.
My name is Gladys Gachanja, a widower. I lost my wife on March 11th of 2011. She had diabetes which affected her heart. That evening she was watching news and she just collapsed in the sitting room. I was away, I was in Nakuru. My daughter rushed her to Gertrude's in Lavington and she was pronounced dead on arrival. We had kids, but thank God they were a little bit grown up. The firstborn was 18 at that time, and the lastborn was about 9 years old. I was a businessman. I didn't have time at home, so all of a sudden I'm in charge of things that I didn't even know what shopping was. I didn't know the price of eggs. I didn't know the price of unga. Yeah, but I had to learn all those things. I had to learn to be home to make sure everybody has eaten, everybody is sleeping well. Those are things that my wife used to do. I'd stopped drinking for like 20 years. But after she died, I have like a glass of wine, then It went on and on and on and on and on. It's been difficult for me to cope, even business, even why I'm in Kajiado now. I think I'm running away from a lot of memories in Nairobi, so that I left my house because everywhere you turn, there is the presence. But it's been a tough 9 years or so.
I had lived with my wife for the last 13 years. We discovered that she had leukemia in the year 2016 May, but it looked like she got it way earlier. She was in and out of hospital for more than 3.5 years, but unfortunately she passed on last year, 13th August. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. One of them is 12, the other one is 10, and the smallest now he's 6. Let me show you. I had so much pressure. I had to wake up at 4, sleep very late to ensure that everything is well taken care of so that I don't rush in the morning, trying to put the uniforms in place, making sure that they get breakfast. But when I was able to get a house help, the pressure came down. They ask a lot of questions. They do. And especially the youngest one. At times he does not understand why some families are complete. And with ours, it's only the D. For the firstborn, it's like he accepted it quite early. The secondborn, who's a daughter, I think for her, it was quite hard because she needs her mother quite a lot. Not to mean that the boys don't need the mother. There's 2, there's 4, there's 6, so the next one should be 8. That affection, when there are 2 parents, at least it's shared. If you're not getting it from this parent, you can always get it from this parent. Right now, it's only 1 parent, and it's not as much because I'm working most of the time. Once you get home, you'll find everybody rushing to you. They want to tell you how school was, how everything was, and you have to give them that attention. You have to be there.
Well, that is the reality that a lot of widowers have to contend with, and clearly goes to underscore the role the mother plays in the household, especially when it comes to raising the children. So today, let's talk more about that and, of course, answer some of those questions that you've had before about if this role has actually been, changed about. Has it morphed with the dynamics of parenting changing with time? Well, let's understand it from those that have actually worn these shoes and are those who have grown up without, without a mother. And I'll start off with introducing the ladies in studio. Njeri Wamegwi, she is with us in studio. You know her as a human activist and human rights activist, and she'll be telling us more about what she does as we go along with the conversation. There's also Leah Nyambeki, who is a lawyer, and she'll also be telling us what it is that she does and, of course, her relation to this conversation. And we're also joined virtually by Timothy Kamau, who is also going to be telling us what he's up to and his relation to this conversation. Now, somebody we're waiting on is Pastor Sophie Mbevi, who is not only an educationist, but also part of the executive team at the Transform Nations. Let's start off with the gentleman amongst us. Now, Timothy, I'm sure just watching the report earlier, you resonate a lot with what you saw. What's your story growing up?
Okay, thank you very, very much, Gladys. Indeed, I was very immersed into the true stories of the gentlemen, the widowers who lost their loved ones. For me, I grew up, I lost my mother when I was 6 years old. So essentially, I have been raised up by a single father. That was way back in the 80s. It's been an interesting journey because the presence of our mother was absent. And as I had this, I could see the struggle that my father went raising us, a family of 5, 3 girls and 2 boys. So I will just say that it is interesting to see other people who are going through that, and also see that it is possible for a man also to raise the children, because I am a product of that setup.
Okay, now let's hear from the ladies. And Jerry, what's your relationship with your papa, or what were the circumstances growing up?
My mother and my father went their separate ways when I was 3 years old. So I was left with my father, and he's the one who raised me. So I grew up, that was in the 80s, and I grew up with my dad. Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Migwe.
All right, now you had mentioned that you have other siblings. Why they all left with daddy?
We were 2. That was my elder brother and I. I was left with dad. My elder brother apparently left with my mom. I don't know the circumstances. No one has ever divulged to us what happened and why which sibling went with which parent.
Aha, so you've never really asked, neither have you gotten a straight up answer.
Our parents are not like us, where you question why has this one gone with this one, or I didn't even know his existence until way later. But you know, we didn't have that environment where you could actually ask your father, why did my brother go this way, or why was I left? You just knew that the parent that left was the parent that took care of you.
Okay, all right. And Leah, what was your circumstances?
I think I must say my circumstances, my mom leaving was justified. It's understandable why she left, so I really can't fault her for that decision. So from the time I was in class 3, I think that's 10 years. At 10 years, I was raised by my father through and through, alone. I'm the firstborn of 3 siblings, so we are 4 girls, and we're all raised by my dad, and that was, 80s, 90s. So that's the only parent we have known since we were children.
Okay, you say the circumstances as to why she left are justifiable. Would you mind sharing?
I could share. It is, she was in a very abusive relationship, and I did witness some of it here and there, but as I said, it is justified that she left. That's a choice she had to make, and I think she had the right reasons and reasonings to actually make that choice. I'm not too sure if she had the choice to take us or not. I can't say that, but I know that we stayed with my father, and he's the one who raised us through and through.
Okay, let me go back to Timothy. Now, you said, you were, 6 years old when you lost your mommy? When you think back, what were the circumstances growing up? Was there ever a mother figure in your lives to help daddy along in raising you?
Okay, for me, the interesting bit is that, okay, my father raised us in the house alone, but there is always the auntie, there is always the grandma who would be around, who would come around and check up on us, on how things are going. Given that 3 of my siblings are actually girls, I think that was also a requirement at that time, possibly going through puberty and, all those things. So essentially, you cannot say that a man would raise the children in a full absence of a female figure. That's not the world we live in, and vice versa. I think every gender has a very serious role to contribute. So I hope that answers the question. So the females are there. There was a female figure in the term of my granny and aunties who would come to ensure that things are running well, and at least, just check up on us.
All right. So you say you were brought up by daddy, and in this African context, the men are normally encouraged to remarry quickly so that they can have somebody who can cater for the children. Did your daddy try to do that at some point, or he decided to do this on his own?
Well, he did try, actually. That's a very interesting question, Gladys. He tried, I think he was a young fella at that time. So he did try, but I think he prioritized us. I believe he actually verbally said that he tried and he could not stand seeing the lack of chemistry between us and the partner which he had at that time. So he decided full throttle to just go on and raise us up until we were able to actually earn a salary. That is when he continued with his life.
Okay, and when you say continued with his life, he actually did go on and get married?
Yes, correct.
All right, interesting. Okay, let me hear from Jerry. What were the circumstances? Did you have a female figure in the house? Who taught you to be a girl?
To be very honest, I was a tomboy because my father did not remarry. I was a typical tomboy, really. I've come in touch with my femininity way after I have outgrown it.
Okay.
So basically, no. The only feminine figure in my life was my grandmother. I would go visit her during the school holidays. So, and I was a little hoiden, so really, they just let me be.
Okay, and in the day-to-day life, did we have a house helper, a cousin,
No.
Somebody who just came by to
No.
walk with you?
Nope.
All right, so I'm curious to know. So we hit puberty, we're going through menstrual cycles, you're changing into a woman. Who is walking you through this?
Okay, let me tell you how that happened. I was 11, I was in class 7 or 6, and we had these three big books that we had in our house. It was called My Health and You, and they had illustrations and pictures, and when my menstrual cycle came, I didn't know what was happening because at that time there was no one in school teaching you about these things, and nothing. So there was no information. So I go through these books, and they say that when you have like cancer of the rectum, there's blood that comes out. So here I am. My periods have started, and I'm in bed, and I've covered my head, and I'm crying because I'm dying according to the books I was reading. And my dad comes, and he's like, "Why aren't you in school? Why didn't you go to school?" I'm like, "Dad, I'm dead." And I show him the page, and he's asking me what's happening. I'm saying there's blood all over, and he's like, "Oh, you're now a girl, which means you are going to use something called a pad." He went and bought something called stay-free pads, and he came and he showed me, and he just told me, "Now you do not play with boys, and this is it. This is how you use it." He had to demonstrate, and then he had to tell me how to dispose of them. My dad is a teacher, so that wasn't so hard for him. And that was that about that.
Okay, and other things to do with adolescence? Your body is changing. What? Nothing?
Well, not really. There was not that much of a conversation. This is the 80s.
Yeah.
Nobody used to talk about these things. The only thing you were told is do not play with boys. That was it. That was that.
All right, and even as you were told not to play with boys, I'm sure you got curious about the opposite sex, boyfriends here, boyfriends there. Did you ever share this with your dad now that he was the closest person to you?
As I said, I was a tomboy.
Okay.
Do you see how you're telling a tomboy not to play with boys is really hard?
Exactly.
Because here I was, I want to climb trees. This whole thing is, I got my periods, but I didn't get into the whole puberty things. I just had my periods. Nothing else happened. I was just the same. So, I did go out and play with boys for a little bit. And I didn't know what part of the do not play with boys he was talking about. And eventually, not playing with boys landed me being a teen mom. But that's a story for another day.
I hear you loud and clear, and we'll get back to that in a moment. Leah, your circumstances, were they similar to Njeri's, or at least there was a female figure in your life?
Yeah, I'm actually laughing and thinking, gosh, Njeri's dad was a bit progressive. The only time my father alluded to anything to do with sex or the female anatomy or anything was one time when he was so upset at us because of this thing of coming home late. And I remember he just shouted, "What is wrong with you people? You can be raped out there." And that was that. So that's the one time I've heard him speak about anything to do with sex. My periods, gosh, I think I can credit it to being a late bloomer. So I started my periods when I'd already gone in high school, and in high school, when you're going to high school, it's the requirements were that you have to come with all these sanitary things, and you have to, you have to have the boob tops, which I wasn't even using, but because the requirement, you had to buy them, the sanitary wear, certain type of underwear. So all these things I credit to just the fact that I was a late bloomer, so that when I got into high school, you watch other girls, you see, you do biology, you have those things that you're around that you can learn from. But having someone to tell you now, put on your pad like this, no, you have to clean yourself like this, you can only wear a pad for 3 hours? Yeah, no, I didn't have those.
Okay, and we're talking about you and 3 other sisters.
Yeah.
So all of you were just figuring it out as you went along?
So my sisters had the benefit of me. So I could in some places tell them, but I think also because of the fact of how it had already been said that things to do with sex and anything reproductive is a taboo. Even that wasn't the best. I do recall giving one of my sisters a talk. I don't remember the others, and trying to take them through. But yeah, it was those things that, just learn by yourself and hope not to embarrass yourself. That was it.
Okay, let me go back to Timothy, because somebody is saying they're curious to know about how he did the transition into puberty. Of course, fathers are supposed to walk you through this journey, but there are mothers who take the initiative and just kind of prepare the boy to get into this space and to be responsible. Who walked you through this, or did daddy actually sit you down and talk about being a man?
Oh, great question. I think that is sort of, that came naturally. My old man is very hands-on when it came to bringing us up, particularly for the boy. So I think the most important thing for puberty was the ritual, or the circumcision ritual, that he personally took charge of, and of course walked me through. As per tradition, you're given a guidance, someone to walk you through who is different from him once you go through puberty. Once you go through initiation. Now, puberty is a different case together. Initiation and puberty are just 2 different things altogether. Because puberty is the whole state between being a child and growing into a man. So the interesting bit is that you sort of just grow organically, like a mushroom. It's, and the person who was given the role to walk me through the initiation is, of course, the person I would talk to in terms of, so what is a man expected to do now that you have moved from a boy to a man? What does that mean? So that would be the direction. But every so often, of course, as I said, my father being very hands-on, he would intervene and say, no, right now, for you, these are not things you should be doing because you went through this ritual. So for the boy, I think it's more of doing. There's no much, how do we say? There's no much of what is happening to your body. That's not there. The books are good enough, I think, or at least.
Okay, now definitely you had sisters, but you're growing into a man, you're getting curious about the opposite sex, and it kind of helps when you hear it from another lady about how women work or even think. So who was giving you the Mwakenya in this case?
For the opposite sex.
Yes.
The opposite sex.
Yeah, how to relate to them.
Mostly peers. That the friends who you meet, be it in high school, primary, high school. So you sort of grow into it. There is no Kamwa Kenya like this. It's the friend who you think is a smooth talker. You want to get the notes from, and yeah.
Okay, interesting perspective. Now, let me hear from Jerry. I know you said that that's another story for another day, but we just need to touch on it. Now, no one told you what playing with boys was about, and oops, you played with them in a way you were not supposed to and became a teen mom. At that point, who walked with you? Because now this is a whole new ball game. You're a mother yourself. Who taught you to be a mom?
My dad.
Okay.
When I got pregnant, first of all, there was this shame. And then my dad is the one who even found out I was pregnant. I had absolutely no idea I was pregnant. I was vomiting in the morning, I remember. And my dad said, Njeri, what have you done? Can we talk? So I'm like, yeah. Are you pregnant? I said, no. I mean, I'd only done it once, so I mean, I couldn't be pregnant. My friends had told me you can't get pregnant like that. And he said, who is responsible? You have to bring him home. And I'm like, I'm not pregnant. And my dad said, okay, we're going to hospital to confirm. So we went to Metropolitan Hospital in Buruburu, and we did the test, and it was confirmed, and I was horrified. And my first instinct, of course, was to run away from home because I was so ashamed. Like, I did not know how to face my dad. He'd been nothing but a good dad to me at that point. So my dad said, no, you have to finish school and you have to do the things that you're required to do. And school is very important, so we are going to walk through this. So he went and enrolled me in a clinic. He would make sure I go to the clinic, he'd make sure I go to school. When the time was close for me to give birth, he's the one who took care of it. I gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. He brought in somebody to help take care of the boy, of him, so that in 1 month I had to go back to school. My dad wasn't entertaining this whole idea. So yeah, so she helped me, you know, the nappies, the thing. If he would cry at night, because me, I would sleep and forget. And he would fall and all those things.
Wow.
Yeah, so he would be present. But after I finished my school, I ran away and went and got married.
Okay. All right. Just even as you talk about that particular experience, do you think perhaps the outcome would have been different if there was mommy in the picture?
For somebody who doesn't have a mom, I really don't know. You see, the thing is, I didn't grow up with a mom. So I don't know how my life would have panned out without a mom, because I don't have a certain influence that I can say this influence is how moms work, unless now is how I relate with my children. And having grown up without a mom, I've had to learn how to relate to my children. You know, how to show them the pitfalls that, of course, I passed through without a mom. So I've had to now realize, oh, this is how people navigate their life when they have a mother. So I do that for my kids. But for myself, I don't know how that works.
But now that you're a parent, you know what your children are getting from you,
Yes.
which you would have gotten, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm also going to say this. I was in my father's life in such a way that I never realized until I was in high school that people actually had a mom. It was just the way he filled the gaps. I was, if people who have seen me grow up can tell you, we went to bury my grandmother the other day, and people were like, Jerry, you still hang around your dad the same way you used to be when you were a kid. Because what my dad did is he focused his life around me. He didn't marry until I left home. So he focused his life around me. So it was like we were always together. You know, we were the two of us, always me and my dad. You know, weekends, when he's going maybe to the bar to take his 2 Tuskers, he would go with me, I would take my sodas. So there was no that key thing that makes you think, oh, people with mothers are like, the only thing we missed was chapatis. Okay. But otherwise, things were good. And chapatis we would buy in a kiosk. So that was it.
Interesting perspective. And for you, Leah, at what point did you realize, okay, other homes have mummies, and perhaps this is how it feels like to have one?
I think I totally relate with Jerry. My father made us, me and my sisters, the center of his life. And the only time I used to realize there's a problem was from the neighbors and the people. And because I grew up in we were Seventh-day Adventists, and were very strict. So we used to have this Friday night cell prayers. They're called prayer cell. Yeah. So that's what we used to have on Friday. And that's when we would realize that you need a mom. And the only reason I used to realize is because I think the neighbors and everyone else used to look at us like, whoa, yeah. And then they expected all the bad things. We were the kids who were going to turn up as prostitutes. We were the ones who were going to not finish school and be pregnant. And, you know, all those things that you're just like, gosh, they don't have a mother. But other than that, really, there's nothing. My father literally would come home and cook for us. Like, he would cook the meals himself for us, especially when we'd never had a house help and we were still young and couldn't cook. He would do that. He would take us to Shed Hotel for fun times. So we really grew up with Vitimbi fun times. And when I think about it now, you know, it's always interesting when people ask, what is it that you think having a mother would have benefited? I always say you can't miss what you never had, really. You can't miss what you never had. And sometimes I look at the circles around me and I think it's not a fallacy. I think it's just a wrong ideology that has been put out there that mothers are perfect. But I have seen relationships where mothers are really, really toxic and you're like, thank God, me and my father, we are just here. So I never know how to answer that. When it comes to my children, I think the only thing I try to do, which I didn't have, and this I didn't have even with my father, is having open conversations, talking to my kids. So I try to make sure I have conversations with my daughter, I have conversations with my son. I tell them in very clear and honest terms what is going on in a manner that they can understand because they're different ages. But I really can't say that, you know, if my mom was home, maybe this would have happened. Because I still, like Jerry, I got my daughter when I was, 23? I got married, like, my life, I was married from 23. I literally left my father's house and went into my husband's house. And that was that.
But just like Njeri, I wonder with you, now that you are with your children and you can see the role you play in their lives, do you now see the missing link?
I don't see it in the same plane, but I also understand that it's really not about which parent you are with. I think it's just about how present is that parent in the kid's life. As you said before, you can have family where both of the parents are present in terms of they're married and living in the same house, but they're not there for the children in any form whatsoever. And I mean, we saw the recent cases of the kids who had run away to party in Mombasa. I'm not making any deductions or allocations, but I'm imagining if you could still have the parents that you desire, both present, both there, but they're not there for the kids. So I do miss certain things about having a mother, maybe things like that. Oh no, but even that, my father used to take us to the salon in Kibera and sit across in the bar as we had our hair done. My God, I really can't pick out one thing that I say would have turned out so differently if my mother was in the house. Okay. In fact, I always imagine it might have been worse given the circumstances we were in. Maybe we wouldn't even be here having these conversations now. It might have been really, really bad. So, yeah, no.
We hear you, yeah. And I think listening to Timothy, Leah, and Jerry, we need to appreciate these fathers because they really went over and above to ensure that their children had everything they needed, even when their spouses were missing. But let's go back to this, and we now have Pastor Sophie Mbevi in studio now. And just listening to everyone, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. God created man and woman, Adam and Eve. So he knew he needed two parties to cater for these children. But today the dynamics of parenting have changed, and there are homes that don't have mothers, others don't have fathers. For purposes of our conversation today, what is the role of a mother in a child's life?
Okay, thank you for having me. I think mother is, of course, the first teacher, the first caregiver. And as I think about the role that I play as a mother in my children's life, there's something in psychology or developmental studies that they call attachments. And they talk about children who are securely attached and they end up as they call well-adjusted adults. And so I feel that the role of mother is to introduce her child into the world, into relationships, to teach them. If I could refer to scripture, it says that I learned how to trust at my mother's breast. So when you're playing that role of nursing your baby, changing them, responding to them when they are in distress. I think you're teaching the child that the world is a livable place. So I think that the mother is really the person who, introduces children into this big stage called the world, and then shows you how to survive and thrive in it.
Now, as we mentioned, the dynamics of parenting have changed. That's why there's
Yes.
some families that have one missing
Yes.
parent. Now, for purposes of this conversation, what is a present mother?
I think a present mother is the one who does not outsource her role as a mother. And when I say, I'll talk about, I'm also an educator, and I run a school. And I remember this one incident that I had where a mother brought in her child. And when she came to enroll her child, she came with the nanny. And she told me, Mwalimu, this nanny is my children's mother. If you need anything, call her. And this mama was, I could tell she was pretty committed to the children, but she was, from the village, obviously had not gotten any education, and this was a school setting. And the role of a mother in the school setting is to help the child, for example, with homework, tell them that this is what you're supposed to do and stuff like that. So for this particular case, I felt that this particular woman, for her own reasons, and I'm not here to judge her, this is just me giving an outsider's perspective, a non-looker's perspective. She seemed to have not prioritized her children. And maybe she had her own reasons. Maybe she felt, my priority right now is to provide for these kids. Let somebody do the caring, let somebody else be the one, to attend to these children, to know what they need. And yet I feel that no one can do that caring as well as a mother does. And even when we take on nannies and we are the ones, it's delegated authority, it's delegated care. We still have to be the one leading the show in that case and saying, this is what my child needs, this is what you don't do, this is what you do. I think when it comes to discipline, for example, for the children, loving discipline has to be based on relationship. A nanny who is out there may not necessarily have the interest of the child at heart. They want to keep their job. And so I feel that the role of a mother, whether you're working or not, whether you're able to be present, you have to just take leadership in terms of the primary caregiving for the child. That even if you have gotten somebody on board, that you are just there to direct and to listen to your children as well, and to learn your children so that when the relationship is not healthy, you're able to pick up the cues and know, something has changed about my son or daughter. I need to find out what it is. And like I say, I'm a career woman, so I've not always been there, to take care of my children. But the things I decided that I will always do, for example, I'll shower my kids, and in the process of showering, I'll inspect if their body is intact. No pinch marks, no signs of distress. And as soon as my children could talk, I taught them to sort of check in and tell me what their day was like. And there are a few incidences I actually caught a caregiver, crossing boundaries with my children. And it's because it was my priority. Even if I was not there at home, it was my priority. I took it my priority to take care of my children, to see them, to know them, to know today my child is not happy and this is not them. What is happening? I think that is the one thing, no matter what is happening around us, we cannot give away that role. Yeah.
Okay, just listening to everyone else, they say that they might not have had mummies, but they feel that their fathers filled the gap.
Yeah.
Looking at the role of a mother and the role of a father, what are those roles that cannot be fine? Somebody else can fill the gap, but there is some uniqueness that comes with being a mom.
Okay. Well, I think the life out here is about relationships. There's things like relational intelligence, and I think that being women, and given that we are the relational ones. The hormone that runs women is called the relationship hormone. So I think that mothers are there to teach children how to relate with others. You name an emotion, your child comes to you and they can't tell what's wrong with them, and mother tells them, look, I think you're sad, and this is the reason why. How do you handle yourself? How do you regulate yourself when you're angry? When you cross boundaries, can you say sorry? And I'd say that I think things have changed a lot over the times because of this thing of now we share roles in the home. I think the traditional place where the roles were very much, structured. There were things that mothers did. There were things that fathers did. I think that is slowly fading, and we are getting. I mean, when I was growing up, for example, when I was a young mother going to church, we'd hardly find any fathers in the creche. It would only be mothers. But so that was with my firstborn. But as I got my lastborn, who is now 12, I began to see more men coming into the creche and sitting with their children as their wives, attended the service. So I think there is a place now for us to educate parents to play whatever role. I mean, you're the parent on duty. When your child has a need, that then you have the presence of mind to understand this is what my child needs, and lean into it and provide that. So I don't think that there is a specific designated role now in the context that we are living in.
Yes.
But in my context, because I'm raising my my children with their father, there is that voice. Even when the kids were younger, I could tell that they would test the waters when I give an instruction. But when daddy says it, then I don't know who teaches them. We never taught them, to say, if mommy says something, please check it out with dad before you do. But it's almost something that happened, that I would say something and there would be hesitation, but when daddy says the exact same thing, it would be done immediately. And so I feel that there is something about male presence that children need that provides authority, and there's a way in which then the children learn to respond to authority. And I'll give you another example. When my son was young in kindergarten, now he's 16, there are not too many male teachers at that level. Not too many male teachers at the early childhood level. And I remember, stories coming home, oh, my son is doing this, my son is doing that. And we realized that it was happening with the boys in the class. And so when we went for teachers' conference, my husband suggested to my child's kindergarten teacher and said, why don't you have one of the male teachers come in, even if it's for the first 30 minutes of the class, because they did devotions every morning. Why don't you have a male figure just present and see how it goes? And at the end of that school term, when we went now for the parents teachers conference, our teacher said that actually just having a man in the class helped to regulate, especially the boys. And there was a bit more order, there was more compliance in terms of the classroom setting. So I feel there's something about male presence that really does make a difference in the lives of the children. And when the children are also seeking identity, you'll always find that they are looking to their father. Dad, how do I look today? Does this pass? And sometimes I would catch feelings and ask, why aren't you asking me?
But what do they ask you as a mommy? What do they get from you?
They ask me about how to do stuff. Mommy, I'm stuck with my project. I'm stuck with my math. I'm stuck, maybe because I'm a teacher, I don't know. But for our case, just the little things, the how-tos in terms of life. Mom, there is this boy who is talking to me. What do you think I should tell them? So that discussion they may not have with their daddy. and they say, you know, and now my daughter is getting into adulthood, and she says, you know, when someone serious comes to my life, I want to bring him first to you before he goes to daddy. As in, if the mommy pass is good, then we can proceed to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk more about some of those roles as we go ahead with this conversation. But remember, the question of the day to you is, do we have absentee mothers today, and what has influenced this dynamic of parenting in this day and age? Remember, that hashtag is new normal. We have Kwame Steve who says, of lately, we've got lots of lazy mothers who have been influenced by watching too much TV programs like the Kardashians. Okay. We have Sergeant who says males are less responsible in relationships, so mothers have to work more jobs and longer to provide for their spouse, in-laws, in quotes, for acceptance, themselves and family. Women keep relationships at the expense of their children. Good nannies are in high demand these days. We hear you. Titus Ruto says, and not all fathers can play this role. All of my 28 years, my mom has been our pillar. Without the aunts and the grandparents, and our dad is well and drinking 4 beers every day. Titus, we hear you. Thank you. Lynn says, a mother will always be a mother, even when she's a widow. This woman will go to an extent of taking care of her children, and it's rare for her to do some things in front of her children. Interesting perspective. Peter Omoja says, it's now the 3rd year I'm raising my daughter alone. Fathers can do better than what you think. Peter, we are actually emphasizing on the fact that they have pulled up their socks and can do well. Patrick Ojoang says, fathers play very essential roles in the family. They are the pillar and anchors. Respect to her father. Thank you, Patrick. And remember that hashtag is new normal, even as we understand the changing dynamic of parenting, and especially changing role of the mother in the home, with most of you saying we now have absentee mothers. So what's influencing this dynamic? And when we say absentee, what do we mean? Mommy is there but not really paying attention to the children? Okay then. So why is this the case? You can also reach us using those numbers at the bottom of your screen. Now, before we take a short break, let me go back to Timothy. Now, you are married and now seeing or experiencing motherhood through your wife to the children. Do you now see some of the things that were missing out growing up?
All right, thank you. I would not say I'm seeing what was missing. I think I have noticed is you do not have to carry the whole load alone when you have a partner. See, mothers are important, but I'd say partners are important because parenting is a partnership. And based on the personality of, for example, my wife, I've noticed that for me, some things I would not ask some types of question to my children when they come back from school. But you'll see my wife go and ask and say, today X is not doing so well. He seemed to be a bit down. Will you check up on him? Maybe find out what is going on. So I think that's an addition. Because if as a parent or as a parent you're doing all this alone, you're doing the seeking finances, you're doing the taking care of the children, you know, all those roles will mean that you miss something out. If you have both parents, it is sort of a tag team. I felt for me it's a tag team with my wife. There are things which I'm really good at, there are some things which she's really good at, and as such, we're able to do and sort of tag team and achieve more without overburdening. I feel that sometimes my old man was very bad. When I appreciate the load that he carried. When I look at the family setup I have, I tell my kids it's easy, you guys have it easy. Because at least you can run across 2 parents.
Now, in the usual setup, you will see children get hurt, and normally they run to mommy because for some reason mommy will know how to sort it out. In your case, how did you handle that? Did you get that for, Woishe, it will get better, I will nurse you back to health? Or was daddy for, when it's okay, you'll be fine?
It's interesting. First off, the nursing element, I think my father takes care of us quite well. However, the Wishe will never be there. It's more of logical. I think men are very objective. Like, serious is this. I think the seriousness is what you look at. Okay, you fell, or it's a scrap. It's like, no, you. I think you're just pretending to be a Maasai. You like jumping, eh? He changes the topic so that you feel, well, he's showing affection, but he'll not give you a wish. He just tells you just jumped, fell. So maybe next time when you jump, just jump less, So there's no wish. It's more of an objective. It's more of how serious. If it's serious, he'll still not show it. Don't expect a wish from the old man. That will never happen. But he'll be taken care of. I think that's the important thing.
All right. And now that you're seeing the mothering to your children, do you see the difference it brings when there's somebody to wish them?
Oh, yes. I think everyone needs a wish. Everyone's not.
Very true. Well, we'll take a short break here on Your World. When we come back, let's understand this Wishe business we're talking about that is also crucial for the children as they grow up, because it also teaches them empathy amongst other things, and also understand from the mothers how they are actually maneuvering parenting without not having a mother to teach them to do the same. We'll be right back.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Pants is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Kiungulia na kuvimbiwa? Ino inatibu ndani ya sekunde 6 na inatuliza dalili 6 za kiungulia. Kwa hivyo unaweza kuburudika bila kikomo. Ino, tibu haraka kiungulia na tumbo kuvimba.
Maie, hii nayo utangoja sana nichukue. Sichukui, niko juu ya pikipiki. Na sheria ya barabara inasema heri kupata missed call kuliko kupata ajali.
To get Piki Piki by Addis Jojo, dial *811
*936#. Skiza, non-nation.
The Cooperatives Movement. 14 million strong membership and in excess of 732 billion shillings in deposits. New regulations and their implication.
Overally, then it means the entire sector now will be under regulation. With the addition of 400 non-deposit taking circles, that increases the market coverage to about 96%.
Prudential guidelines and compliance.
Liquidity management is a challenge that a number of circles face, and that is principally because of the asset liability mismatch.
Streamlining the market.
It's our view as an authority that there is need for consolidation.
In the next edition of Business Redefined, we speak to the Chief Executive Officer of the Sacco Society's Regulatory Authority for this and more.
Fact Finder from the BBC.
The international media has been very critical. The argument is that Botswana tourism makes so much money for the economy.
How has the media covered the controversy on elephant hunting in Botswana? We find out.
How can a community live with these animals despite of the challenges they are bringing?
We speak to an elephant expert on the role of media in conservation.
I'm Fatia Noor at the Safaricom Innovation Center in Nairobi. I'm talking to a couple of young innovators here who have developed tools for fighting fake news.
And is streaming killing the cinema industry? BBC Reality Check has been investigating.
Ni ukweli imeshuka bei smartphone ya nguvu. 4G screen kubwa ya kuwatch game ni 3,999 pekee. Ni ukweli.
Pata smartphone ya nguvu kwa bei nafuu kutoka kwa duka la Safaricom au dila leo. Safaricom for you.
Flour producers in Kenya have traditionally looked to the international market to maximize their earnings on this commodity. But with uncertainties such as the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the industry hard in 2020, some entrepreneurs are now looking to the Pan-African market to change their fortunes.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Welcome back to Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Today we are talking about the role of mothers. Yes, it sounds like it's something that comes naturally, but it looks like the dynamics of parenting have changed. And this is one role that has also been challenged along the way. And we've been hearing from those who've actually grown up without mothers in their households. That is Njeri Wamwigwe, Lea Nyambeki, Timothy Kamau, and we are also joined by Pastor Sophie Mbevi, who is helping us navigate this conversation. Before we went to break, I mentioned that the mothers, I'd like to hear from you. Let's talk about mothering, coming from a point of view where there was no one to, model that role. So for Njeri, where do you base that skill from?
From my father.
Okay.
Because that's the mothering I know. Mm-hmm. And when Timothy said that his child runs and there's a wishy moment, actually just shared here with Leah, and I told her, oh my God, I don't have that.
You don't have Woishe?
No, like I'm very logical when it comes to things. I'm very, sasa si umeanguka, sasa si unyamaze. You know, we need to just, you know, take care of the kidonda and we talk about it. I don't see why you're crying, and I'm just hit that maybe if I had a mother, maybe I would have that. It's not that I'm not empathetic. The work I do requires a lot of empathy, but like, umeanguka, why are you crying? See, we sort it. That's how I look at things. I'm very logical when it comes to problem solving. I will not be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, mtoto ameanguka. No, I'll be like, okay, umeanguka. Sasa si we sort out the problem so that we can see now what is the next, you know, thing. I mean, why are we crying? It's irritating. It's annoying.
Okay. All right, let's go back to now you have this baby, they're an infant, there's all the cuddling that comes with it, you know, that whole process of being a mommy. How did that come naturally to you, or there are some instances where you'd think, why don't you just keep quiet?
Yes. Yeah, I was not, it was not, to be very honest, no, it wasn't.
It didn't come naturally?
Yeah, it didn't. I would be like, why is this baby crying? This baby is fed, this baby is changed. He's just crying, and I had a colicky baby and he would cry, and I would cry because now I'm angry and I don't know what to do, and I would just take him to my dad. Yeah, that was the easiest thing to do, and he would deal with it.
Okay, now fair enough. When we are maneuvering, especially the first children, we all cry with the babies because it gets too much. But what you're saying is there are some things that were not coming natural to you, thought of them logically as opposed with your heart, perhaps?
Yeah. Is it what they call the maternal instinct?
Yes.
I'm a mother to many children. I run a home. So, but the thing is, you know that thing that you're saying that for mothers kick in.
Yeah.
That thing is replaced by logic, because fathers are very logical.
Yes.
You solve problems. This is the issue. Yes, you've fallen from a bicycle. You've hurt your knee. This is what we are going to do. So you find that that is the same approach you approach to things. Unaona? Because in my home there were no specific gender roles. My dad would come from work. We would come together. He was a teacher. He was in the same school. We'd come home together. He would cook. You see, there was no assigned gender role at we are coming home and mothers cook. For me, I find it very strange when men say they can't cook. I had a father who cooked. I was in high school and my father was cooking. I go home now and I'm a grown up. My father lives alone and he will cook. I find he has cooked. So I don't understand this whole thing, you see. So for me, that is how I approach everything. Because I see. There was nobody telling me this is how things work, run in a home, because this is all you see. So this is the normal for you. Your father cooks. Your father is the one who teaches you how to wash clothes. When the time came, you know, like I think I learned how to wash clothes when I was in Form 1. Because he was the one washing clothes. It was nothing at you come from school and you are thinking, oh, I need to. No, you come from school, you put your clothes in the dirty hamper and unaenda kimbia kucheza.
Okay.
That was that. So,
all right. Interesting perspective. Let me hear from Leah. So the babies come from school and they complain that they were bullied. What's your first reaction?
Why were you being bullied first? Because why weren't you fighting back? Or like, no, I don't understand. I honestly, we're talking, Jerry, I'm like, what is this Woishe business? It's not that I'm a heartless person. I also do a lot of work with children and women who've been abused. But that's, my thing is, that's not solving the issue that we are having at hand. So like Woishe, and it doesn't mean that there's no emotion. I can tell you, the first time I saw some very strong emotion from my father was the day I told him I was pregnant. I was in my first semester in Uganda, and I'd gone, I was in Makerere doing my degree, and then I had gone when I knew I was pregnant, but I hadn't told him. So when I knew it was almost holiday time, I sent him a text. Also, you know I am pregnant. Then he went silent. For like a week. Silence. And then my sisters would tell me, he would ask, and everyone would be like, I don't know, Miss Siju, you know this child called Siju who's always in the house. We don't know. There's that child. That's what everyone was doing. So he went silent, and then I tell you, from the time he called me, he's like, how are you? Are you okay? How are you feeling? When are you starting exams? And every day he would call me, you had an exam, you did this, you finished? Yes. Please make sure when you finish, you come straight home. And he did this for the duration of my exam period, the whole time. The day for my last paper, he called me, okay, what time are you finishing? I told him, I was like, okay, so what time is your bus? This time we used to have night buses and everything. It's like, okay, so make sure you come where? Straight home. Like if he could, he would have come and picked me up by himself. And I remember I got in and my friend would come and he's coming to pick me up. He's like, so what's up? What's the plan? Where are you going? I was like, my father has said, you take me home. And I went and I stayed home. And he did not release me until the day we did all those burial and things. So it's not about not having the emotions. I think the emotions come when they are necessary. The rest of the time we are dealing with the situation. So it's the same thing with me. I always look at my kids and you're crying. I'm like, but why are you crying? I have not beaten you. What is the problem? We are having a conversation. Why are you crying? And it really irritates me. Like, honestly, why are you crying? What is the issue? So I don't think it's a lack of emotion or a hardness or whatever. But you're always in the point of this has happened. How do we solve it? What is the next step? And I think I really want to touch on the issue. I know it was raised by the pastor and Jerry has alluded to it. One of the benefits I had growing up with my father, I did not realize anything about gender roles until I grew up. No such thing. In fact, my whole life I knew I was going to be the first female attorney general of this country.
Amen to that.
That is what there's never a point where I was like, I can't do that, it's for boys. And my daughter, she's really, really good at soccer, And she also loves rugby and she knows the rules. And would go for games. And it's one of the arguments we have with the dad because he downplays the soccer and he's like, no, you go do swimming. Like you don't need. And I'm like, she likes soccer. Can the girl just play soccer? What is the problem? And I feel like these are the problems that we are seeing now. And when we talk about absentee moms, I don't think this is an issue of absentee moms. I just think life has changed. And what are we saying? We talk about absentee moms like it's such a negative. It has a negative intonation, like this woman has just decided, wake up, I do not want anything to do with my children, deuces, enjoy life. But actually, the thing is, we're just finding that women now are becoming more professional. They're taking up more corporate roles, which means they're spending more time in the office. They're spending more time doing corporate things, which means they're not in the house as much as the women I would see during my time who probably were not working or were teachers or nurses and they were always at home for whatever period. Now, that's not what's happening. We are having women leading. She's a CEO in a company. She is running a whole institution responsible for hundreds of people. She doesn't have time to cook dinner every day. And it's not that she can't cook or she doesn't want to. This is her life. And when we look at it like that, it's not such a bad thing that we're also having women who are breadwinners. They're the ones running their homes. They are footing bills for everything. So, I think when we talk about these things, we forget to talk about the flip side where we are seeing more men who are staying at home. We know of many men who are being taken care of. And I don't know why we look at it as a bad way because it just shifts. Because now, if you're going to be the CEO and you're going to spend 16 hours in the office, someone has to be taking care of the kids. And I like what Timothy said, that in the relationship, it's a partnership. But you cannot look at it that because I'm married and I'm the man and my wife is earning the big bucks, she's a CEO, she still has to come home and cook for me dinner. No. And take care of the kids and do no, that's not going to happen.
Okay, Leah. Yeah. Now, let me stop you at that point because we need to understand. So the dynamics have changed, but what is the impact? And that's what we'll be looking at. Let me hear from Sophie. A few things that have been brought up by Timothy, Njeri, and Leah. For the ladies, the Woishe didn't come naturally. And that's because perhaps there was no female figure to teach them to be Woishe. So they're very logical. Umeanguka pole and take care of it. The end. What is this that mommy brings to the table? Because I see it even with my own son. He will want to cuddle. He will want to feel secure in that way. But you see that they relate with the father differently.
Yeah. All right. I think I would say, like I said in the beginning, that mothers are more relational. I think women, by nature, by design, are more relational. I think that relationship comes easier for women. Generally, there are outliers, but I say generally it comes easier for women. And so, you know, we do some parenting classes, and I tell women there is nothing like the baby is crying for nothing. the baby is crying because there is a frustration, because they're uncomfortable, but unlike us, they don't know how to express it. If I am cold, I will say, hey, I am cold. And if I'm a visitor in your house, I'll say, can you lend me, a rag to throw on myself because I'm cold? But a baby doesn't know how to do that. So how do they do it? They cry. So, and one of the things that is very interesting with mothers, you'll walk into a room and a baby will cry, and the mother will say, okay, that's the cry for hunger, or that one is the one for sleep, that one is the one for a soiled diaper that needs to be changed, and that one is for the baby is just angry. And you're like, who teaches mothers? Is there a place where you go and you're taught when your baby cries like this is the intonation for
Yeah.
I guess it's just what is called a motherly instinct. And again, one of the biggest things that we have as women is that thing called intuition. When you know that you know that you know, but you have no scientific explanation for it. And I think that intuitive knowing that a child is not well with a child, even when they look okay on the inside, I think it's missing. But to also lend credit to what Leah is saying, maybe because my mother was a career woman. I mean, she was a teacher all her life. She was a career woman. She farmed all the food that we ate. She was a chairlady at church, and she was a busy woman. And I feel that there are ways in which I did not experience her at a level that I wanted to as a mother. So, I mean, goals like, I grew up with a mother, but still mothering, the aspects of mothering that did not also come easily for me. But then there are resources that, the world provides, or providence, avails to us, that you will go to school and there will be that teacher who will be like a mother to you. There will be the auntie, there'll even be the nanny who will be so caring and who will sort of fill some of the gaps that a mother should have. But definitely, whether we realize it or not, there is an impact. I would say that there is an impact. And I'd say that maybe with the increase of mom being more detached from home because of legitimate reasons like a career, you need to provide. I mean, they say that Kenya has one of the highest population in the black world for mother-led homes. So it means that it's a new normal now for us to have mothers not engaged as maybe mothers of another generation were. But the children have to be raised anyhow. The values have to be praised. So as far as I'm concerned, I tell my staff at school that you don't know where a child is coming from. So part of your role in this place of being a teacher is to mother the children and to see them and to understand that there's something that they're getting from you as a teacher that they may not get from home. So I'd say the impact is there. I think the relationships generally have become more fluid. They're not as tight as they used to be in terms of caring, and I think there is a correlation with the impact, what are the unfolding phenomena that now as moms we are not as involved as we used to be. Yeah, so that we cannot say that that there is no impact, that it's okay. And the other thing also is that when you don't have, you learn how to do without. It is also nature's way of helping us cope with circumstances in our lives. And so I may grow up having a need, but not even aware that I have a need. Yeah, and that we must recognize. And so I think there is a place for us to just understand, what does a mother do? What does a father do? Again, it's a very dynamic relationship depending on how I was brought up, how the partner that I live with was brought up. There's a whole thing that is happening there. But like you said, I believe that the ideal is when you have a partnership. You have a mother and a father. And whichever way you look at it, when one of those partners is missing, definitely there will be an impact. There will be something that ends up missing. But I also want to say that there is hope, because there are ways that, or situations where you can be remothered if you were never mothered before. And one of the ways that I have been remothered is out of the significant relationships that I have with other women that are either like older women in my life, so they have gone a little bit ahead, and so I'm deliberate about learning from them certain things that I may not have gotten from my mom. And I want to say that my mom tried her best, and she did give me what she could, because what she didn't have, she couldn't give me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, remember that hashtag is new normal as we try to understand what is this that has influenced the dynamics of parenting enough to have what we're calling absentee mothers. And by this we mean they're spending not too much time at home, perhaps because of their careers, as Leah was mentioning, and also because of other circumstances. That hashtag is new normal. Your feedback still coming through. If you can have some on the screen. We have Kennedy Moas, who says, my father raised me and my elder brother in our home alone since I was 4 years old, and my brother was 6 until we finished college. The surprising fact and truth is that for all those years, he raised us alone and single-handedly, going to levels of even physically washing our dirty clothes on a riverbank. Never on any occasion did he bring the so-called woman figure in our homestead. So the question is there an importance of a woman figure? Udi Jr. says, kudos to those who are praising their fathers. Thank you, Udi. We have Douglas McCoy, who says, my wife is an absentee mom. She cannot even help with homework, and yet she's learned. She prefers sleeping, and I hate it. Douglas, thank you for sharing that. And that brings up another perspective that Jerry had mentioned, that you look around and there are people who do not have good relationships with their mother. And I think Leah also mentioned the same thing. And you kind of sit back and say, hey, afadhali what I have. The question is, being a mother now and wanting the best for your children, are you being intentional about the mother you are to your children? I'll start off with Leah.
I am very, very intentional about everything that I do with my children. I'm a Christian, and I therefore believe in the institution of family, as is put in the Bible. And I believe God had a reason why he wanted a man and a woman to come together and form a family. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that that's not how everything is happening now. And that's why my belief is mostly based on the fact that it's not really about having a man and a woman. It is how are we exposing our children to the circumstances, to the things that make them wholesome people. I personally do this very, very deliberately. I want my children to have thriving relationship with their father because of this, because I also know there are things I cannot bring to the table for them, especially with sons, and having not grown up with a father. My only male figure out of my husband at the time was my father. And this is the person who's been constant. And I understand that there are certain things I would prefer my sons to know from their father. Doesn't mean, should the father not be there, that then these children also cannot be exposed to those things. I think we can find ways of ensuring that we are raising holistic children and exposing them to the things that they need to be exposed to and the people they need to be exposed to be that holistic. I think that's how I'd approach it. So being very deliberate, the schools they go to, the churches, the people who are hanging around them, their friends, the things I even utter to them, the conversations I have with them. I remember one time, just last week, I was laughing. Is it last week? Sometime this month. We're laughing. My son, he's 10. And for the first time, he had this thing. He decided he was going to approach this girl that he likes in the compound. And then his sister thought, let me help you. Sister was older. Let me do this. Let me go and tell her my brother likes you. And of course, when he went to talk to the girl, shut down, like, I don't want to talk to you, get out of here. And of course, he came back and he was like, oh yeah, she said she didn't want to talk to me. I really wanted to cry. But you know, now there you're like, okay, now listen. Many girls will not like to talk to you. You will not insist, you will not force yourself. For me, this is a teachable moment to understand the personal boundaries, the things you can do, because we are seeing a lot of harassment and things happening because people do not know how to deal with rejection, or people don't understand the boundaries. If she said she doesn't want to talk to you, don't talk to her, step away. Like, this is how you act. And I believe that's not something that you'll say because it's a boy. It has to come, that learning from a man. These are things that you can expose them, have conversations, talks, and they can actually learn. So it's being deliberate in everything that we are doing and exposing our children to. That would be my take.
All right, and let me just challenge you. Do you know that particular conversation you had with your son? Your husband would have it differently with him?
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only my husband, I'm sure even my father would
Any
have
guy.
had a different
Yes.
conversation, my mother, everyone. But you see, at the bottom line, the people I'm exposing around my children are the ones who are going to tell him what I know is correct in terms of boundaries. You know, the father could also have the conversation with him and encourage him, you know, the way we are told by men, "Mwanaume ni kucheza kama wewe." Like, she said, don't try again. Like, you know, like there's all these things in the aggression that, you know, you just don't go down the first time. That would have been the conversation. That's not what I
Yeah.
want my son to have.
Now, Leah, that right there is what we're trying to identify. The role the female plays in speaking something into their children or calling out something or from their children. Now, are we on the same wavelength? I think now we are starting to understand each other, that each party has something special to bring to the table. We have Fred on the line, and he's calling from Nairobi. What's your question or comment?
Yes, good morning, Gladys.
Good morning.
And the panelists also.
Uh-huh.
Now, yes, I'm asking this, as a man, for instance, and I'm married, I have a wife and kids.
Go ahead.
Hello, yes, I'm asking this. Suppose my wife is an absentee, like somebody said there, though she's there, but she's not interested, she doesn't help in parenting. Is that a basis for divorce, according to you guys?
Oh, is this a basis for divorce according to us?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, fine. We shall look into that. Thank you, Fred, for reaching out. And again, those numbers are at the bottom of your screen. If you have any question or comment pertaining what we're talking about, perhaps Pastor Sophie, you can touch on that before we move on. That is a frustrated man who feels the mother is not there for the children.
Wow, that it would be very difficult for me to offer a blanket, solution to that, because there is that which Fred is saying, but we have not had an opportunity to hear the other party. And I think in the spirit of fairness, it would only be good for such a situation to look for an opportunity where both parties can be heard, because you have to have context before you can resolve such a matter. But is that a good ground for divorce? I would say, if divorce can be avoided, Gladys, I am one of those people who say if it can be avoided, especially for the sake of those children over whom we are claiming that, this person is not present. If it can be avoided, I would say let every effort be made before one decides, it's over. What about if this woman is sick? She could be sick. She could be literally incapable of providing care. So when you divorce her on the ground, that's just a hypothesis. If, for example, she's sick, and there are women who get sick, issues of, for example, postpartum. Not many, the women who after giving birth go into depression, and because of the stigma around mental health issues, it may not even occur to them to seek help, and you can deteriorate. So I would say, before you quickly throw away that woman and decide that she's not worthy to be your parenting partner, please seek intervention.
Okay.
Yeah, seek intervention first. do everything, because at the end of the day, you may think that you're seeking a divorce to save these children, but they end up being the greatest collateral in that situation of divorce.
Okay.
And whatever happens, I say that there are no ex-parents. This woman is still the mother of these children. They will never have another mother like her. So it's in the best interest of these children if their mother is well, and if their mother is functioning in the capacity that she should be functioning in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right then, let's take a short break on your world. When we come back, more of your questions coming through that hashtag new normal, and you can also call in using that number at the bottom of your screen, and we'll hear more from Jerry, Leah and Timothy. Stay with us.
Family is working together today. It is creating opportunities for a lifetime of happiness. The future is bright because you can always bank on family. Family Bank, with you for life.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
To achieve great things in life, you must do little things every day, like the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate.
1, wake up. 2, brush up. 3, smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong tea. Smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong tea.
Do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate and give yourself a future to smile about.
One of the best ways to save money is by visualizing what you're saving for. If you need motivation, set saving targets along with a timeline to make it easier to save.
All professionals should join us to benefit from competitive products, high qualifying credit, attractive returns, and services automation. Join us and attain your financial independence. Mhasibu Sacco, the Sacco for professionals.
The magic beckons. From aquatic thrills to wild adventures, experience our latest additions to the magical Kenya Signature Experiences collection, filled with the most unique and authentic Kenyan travel experiences to cure your wanderlust. No matter where you choose to travel in this paradise we get to call home, you will be spoiled for choice and make memories that you'll cherish for a lifetime. Rediscover the magic.
Timeless love.
So she must be around here somewhere.
Antonio, I'm so sorry, but I have to go now. I'll call you later, okay? I can explain everything. Goodbye. Geronimo, you cannot go out. You're still very weak.
Rahina is right. You cannot.
I don't care!
I am going to ask you this favor. I want you to stop the wedding of Roberta and Matias.
Renata, wait, I don't understand.
You know what? I'm not getting married. She told me she was coming.
I don't know what she told you, but Karina isn't here.
Timeless love.
fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Did you see the girl that I was with?
The waitress?
I think I kissed her.
You what?
She was gorgeous.
Hivi utajipata wife, shida za pesa ndogo ndogo ziishe. Kuna mtu mwingine? Anaitwa Pop. Kwani wewe ni mechanic?
Hufanya wera mengi sana.
Na hii jina yako Pop ni nickname. Na wewe umeoa ama uko single?
Sina mtu.
Madem unapenda, dem unaweza muita labda wife in future. Unapenda dem anakaaje?
Mimi napenda madem wako na godoro.
Help build a strong foundation for your growing child with Nestle Nunkid. Nestle Nunkid 4. Our best for you.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
It is your world. My name is Gladys Gachanja, still speaking about the role of mothers. And Jerry, Leah, Timothy still with us. And of course, Pastor Sophie Mbevi, who is an educator and also part of the executive team at Transform Nations. When we went to break, we were talking about how the role of the mother in the home has changed. And we have Salome on the line speaking to us from Nairobi. What's your question or comment? Salome?
Yes.
What is your question or comment?
It's just my comment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have heard so many people praising their father, but for me, I praise my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom, although we had father, but he never, yani hakukaa karibu na sisi sana.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with my mother, but my father was there. He could come in the night, only on a weekend, then go.
Mm-hmm.
In a month, he could only come maybe twice, or even once, or even a year, he could come only twice in a year, thrice in a year. So
Mhm.
the role of a mother was really enough for us. Imagine we were 7, but he would make sure everyone, each one of us, do the homework. If we were a girl, he would do everything, a boy the same, everything. So my mother really played a big role in us growing up.
Okay, thank you, Salome, for sharing your story and for also watching your world this morning. Jerry, let me cross over to you. The dynamics, apart from everyone being busy now, careers, chasing careers, the independent woman as it were, there's also the dynamic that the social, dynamics have changed, okay? We, back in the day, as you put it, both you and Leah, is that we grew up in the 80s where the mother was a constant and perhaps father is the one who used to leave, come back. Now for you, daddy was it, and they walked with you. But today we are seeing more mothers who are out there coming back in the dead of night, partaking or taking up substance and drug abuse, amongst other things. What do you think that does now, as far as the effects on the role of the parents in the house?
Let me put it this way.
Yes.
Assign gender roles. There's so much pressure right now, and life is different, as you've aptly put it. But the thing is, motherhood or even fatherhood is a deliberate choice. It's a choice you make whether you're going to be available to your children, whether you're going to expose your children to certain elements. I mean, even as a father who would come home drunk, you know, there was that realization, even in the estate, baba nakuanga amelewa, your wife is trying to cover you. Now maybe it's a turn of the fathers to cover you. So as I say, there has to be a deliberate intention towards being a parent to your children. There is much more demand right now on our children, to us as parents, for us not to be cognizant of the fact that if I come home, I am tired, I am drunk, I have taken drugs, how does that impact my child? Children nowadays will ask you questions. They're not like us. My kids ask me things and I'm like, Allah, tumefika hapo? Okay. You know, they're going to ask you, why are you doing this and why are you doing this? So you as a parent, why did you get children? Did you get children because you got married, it was a social obligation? Did you get children because it was a fluke? Children, why would you want to expose your children to things that you know will inherently affect them? Can we get children that we know very well we are capable of taking care of them? Can we get children that we know we are going to be present for? That goes for both mothers and fathers. As a mother who is now going out into the world looking for a living and coming back, eking a living and coming back home, you're stressed, you're tired, but you chose to have these children. It was a choice. You could have chosen not to have them. So you have to also be deliberate about the choices you're making about the children you have. You know, it's that simple. Parenting now should be deliberate. We are more educated. We have more resources at hand. We have so many things that, you know, that help us in order to organize our children and to help them navigate the world. So you have no reason as a parent not to be present in your children's life and not to do the right things. At just because you want to go around having a social life. You can have your social life and still have your children and still raise them right without them being affected by the choices you make.
All right, Timothy, knowing that you grew up without one parent, how deliberate are you to ensure that this balance now that you have achieved in your own home continues? And what is the direct impact to you on your children?
I liked what Jerry said on being deliberate. I believe parenting, for me, has been very deliberate. You see, you have the friends who would want to hang out with you up to a certain hour of the night, for example, and you will have to think, which one comes first? Is it the kids who have something to do in the morning, for example? Maybe you're taking for lessons in one field or another. Which one comes before? And I feel that prioritizing, especially the children, because it's for a season that you have to be there. It is very important that you have that as a priority. I have purpose myself to always be present in as much as I can. Sometimes I find that I travel, but in the evening, I'll always make sure we have a call. And we have a call and talk. How was your day? How was X? And I think this comes especially from having my father do almost the same thing. Whenever he was there, we tried to understand, what are you going through? X, Y, Z. So now, having my own family, and now that I have at least a spouse, I feel that the balance is easier on me, I would say. I cannot imagine doing it alone. And I feel that there is always a plus when at least someone has a parent they can run to and get that share moment. And for me, if they need another sort of approach, I'm also, but I make it a priority. And I'd say it is not, I feel sometimes people sort of feel that there is a competition between the woman and the man. That should not be the case. Actually, it should be that you are bringing up wholesome, well-rounded children with each characteristic from each parent. Even the DNA is not fully mine. So half my and half mine. So I feel that is actually very, very critical. Bringing in and having two parents is a plus, I'd say that, especially if there's no, there's a friction that can be created in the relationship, which sort of spoils the whole thing, as Jerry had earlier said, that sometimes you're like, maybe it is better that it went this way. But for me, at the moment, the balance feels right. There is a plus in having a woman and a mother to my children present.
All right. And as we bring this conversation to a close, Sophie, how to cultivate being a present mother with all these dynamics we're talking about, some that are beyond us, some of them are just choices. How do you ensure you're present for your children? Because at the end of the day, as somebody said once, these are the kids who will be sitting here years to come talking about the parents we were.
Exactly. So I think, like I said, just understanding that my mother role cannot be delegated to anyone. And if I have to delegate, I still remain in charge of the process. I direct how I want. I have the big picture. I have my parenting goals, and I'm simply bringing in somebody to help me execute it. And like I say, I don't abandon the instruction of my children simply because I have a nanny or simply because I'm pursuing things. And I feel that as women, we need to get to a place where we can negotiate even around work. And if truly you are that very valuable employee in some organization, there should be a way that you also bring in this saying, I come here as a package, I'm a mom. And I promise to deliver on my KPIs here, but there is also a home. Because at the end of the day, let me tell you, Gladys, if today I drop dead, as they are ferrying my body to the mortuary, somebody will be appointed to be acting in the role of whatever corporate job I have. Somebody will step in immediately. But nobody can step into, they can't appoint an acting mother. It's forever gone. So I think we need to take the role of motherhood very seriously, even in the light of career pursuits, and realize that my company can have another CEO who is better, brighter, and faster than I am. My children will only ever have me as their mother. And so just to have the right perspective and to put priority and to make the necessary sacrifices that we need to make for the sake of the children. And how do I become present? I think the home is a place where people are prepared to go out and face the world. And I'd say that mother is the heart of the home. Even given our left and right brain connectivity or connection, we're able to connect many, many more things than our more, should I say, stronger gender? I don't know. We are all strong in our own ways, but than the male gender. And if you look even in the animal kingdom, the work of nesting. I mean, there's this bird. I don't know whether you know that weaver birds actually are the males are the ones that build the nest. But once they do, they woo a female to come and make a home out of that nest. So I'd say that no matter what happens, mother is the heart of the home. The home is the platform where we prepare citizens of the future. It's where we teach empathy. It is where we teach fair play. It is where we teach, survival skills that, if this thing is working, you teach innovation. And mothers do that. When you don't have unga, you stretch, you recycle the food you did yesterday, you stretch this or the other. It may look like it's a meal, but if your child is involved in that process and you're inviting them into that space where they're seeing you doing those things, you're preparing them for the life that is ahead of them, whether they'll be an employer or employee somewhere, that they will, be able to come back and do what they need to do. So I think we just need to accept and embrace that no matter how far we go with life and no matter how high we climb the corporate ladder, there is the heartbeat of the home that we also must keep our eye on, so that we don't lose it, and so that then the next generation does not also lose it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, as I said, we're coming to a close to this conversation, and Njeri, Leah, and Timothy, I'd like to hear your parting words. I mean, you've had your experiences growing up without mothers, but now you're in a position to see life through the lenses of a parent, and we talked about intentionality. So Leah, going forward, what's your intention and also your words of advice for some that are trying to find their footing even without having a mother to help them along?
All right, maybe I'll just say two things. First of all, on the statement of women these days going out and engaging in substance abuse, this is not a today thing. I just think we now have spaces where these things are now more open and people talk about them more. So it's not unique that it's a new time occurrence. These things used to happen. As a parting shot and a line for me, let me say this. When I grew up with my father, one of the things that used to happen is that he would come home from work in the evenings, and if we were sitting watching TV, we would wake up and go to the bedroom. My father would never come to any of our rooms. So it was like a check-in. He checks in, we check out. He checks in, we check out. And this was because he would, the things Jerry was saying, he was tired, he was stressed, he's hungry, he has to take care of us. So any conversations we had or things ended up in an argument and frustration. So for me personally, it doesn't matter how much I'm tired, how stressed I am, I try to make sure when I come in, even if I have to sit in the car outside and just zen myself, when I come into the house, I am pleasant. Hi children, how was your day? Let's talk about like the ambience for them to know I am here now, let's talk. As opposed to, because it will just repeat. I will come in and they're like, oh my God, she's gonna start. And they go play PS or whatever. So that's my deliberate takeaway. Be deliberate in your things that you do with your children. For me, that's it. To know that I'm present and I'm there to listen and we can have conversations on anything.
All right. Njeri?
One of the things my father taught me, and is something I practice with my children, my dad was very deliberate about taking me everywhere. I was his shadow. You saw my dad, you would see me. Like, it was a thing. We were always together. We were going to school together. We go home together. We spend time together. That was a very important part of our life. And I guess that's why I'm very close to my dad. If something happens to me, the first person automatically I would think about telling is my dad. You see? So because we are very close. And I have deliberately cultivated the same closeness with my kids. I'm very deliberate about that. I mean, I talk to them. We have an honest to God conversation about anything and everything. My first son is grown, and we are very close. And the same with these other kids, because I have decided the same thing, that mantra that my dad had. We go shopping together. If my dad would go to a bar, I promise you, he would sit here, I would sit here. I would take my soda, he would take his Tusker. We'd finish, we'd take goat meat, we'd go home. That was our weekend. So I'm very deliberate about such things. So with my kids, everywhere I go, we go. Pamoja, I come as a package.
Okay.
You were inviting me to your house, me and my 5 children were trooping in. Don't expect I'm coming alone unless it's a bridal shower or something that, it's very adult in nature.
Yeah.
But otherwise, for parents, cultivate time. Imagine these kids, they grow and they live. If you had told my dad at one point I would not be in his house and we would take maybe 6 months before we see each other, he would have thought, what? But imagine these kids grow, imagine spend time with them, and imagine that time that you spend with them, it will come back to you. Because these children, when you're old, they will be the ones who are looking for you and telling you, Dad, niaje? Ebu we go here, we ate nyama. You should see me with my dad now. I'm like, Dad, Ebu come, I buy you nyama. Ebu come, we go for a meeting together. I'm so proud of him. And that closeness that he did with me is what is paying him back in terms of we have a relation. But this relationship won't happen to you if you're cutting, you want to spend more time with your friends. Not that friends are bad, but, be deliberate about your children. 18 years is a very short time. It goes like that.
Very well said. And thank you for being so candid about your lives and your experiences. And Timothy has had to leave us, but he also had talked about the things that he's being very intentional about now that he has his own family. Now, Pastor Sophie, Jerry and Leah said their mothers exist, but they really do not have a relationship with them. And it goes by the fact that they grew up with one partner. So that relationship is not as it is. But there's somebody out there saying, okay, fine, I would love to have a relationship with my mother. Our relationship is a bit strained, but I think it's important for the sake of her grandchildren, or even for me to feel that mothering again at my age. Is there a place for reconciliation?
Absolutely. I think there is a place for reconciliation, and I'd say that it is not natural for you to carry a pregnancy for 9 months, go through the drama, and then not be there for your children. I always like to think that it must have been a very unfortunate circumstance that brought about that scenario. It's not natural. And so I would say to maybe people like our guests and others that are out there, show compassion and empathy to that person that you call your mother, even if she is not there, and your father as well. I think we forget that our parents are also broken people, just pretty much like we all are. And they may not have had the resources that are now available to us to sort out our brokenness. And so they parent us or misparent us out of their brokenness. But I know that deep within, there are those who understand, who wish that they could have had a relationship with their daughters or their sons. They're in a place of old age, there is regret, and these are things that I have seen. And so what I tell then to children in that situation is that many times your parent is somewhere up there. They want to come down and they don't know how to. So just apply the ladder that they need for them to come down to where you are. And I'd say that there can be nothing to lose from the place of reconciliation. Because like I said, that woman, whether I have a relationship with her or not, is my children's grandmother. And that relationship, the parental relationship, is a permanent bond. Today, if we fight with my husband and we decide we can't live each other, the spousal relationship will end. The parental relationship that binds us together will not end. So for the sake of healing generations to come, I think it is prudent for us, where possible, to pursue a reconciliation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well said. Pastor Sophie Mbevi, who is an educator and part of the executive team at Transform Nations, helping us go through this conversation and figure out some of these dynamics. Njeri Wamigwi, Leah Nyambeki, Timothy Kamau also joining us with their various stories on their relationships with their fathers now that they did not grow up with moms. But I think a lot of perspective comes out of this, that every role, that of a father and that of a mother, is critical in the upbringing of the children, and that parents need to be very intentional, even with the dynamics of parenting changing, on being there for their children. Well, that is it for us from Your World this morning, but tomorrow I'll be back same time and we'll be talking about peptic ulcers. Now, some of you have reached out to us talking about, I've had mine for a long time, they just won't go away. Some say I have had them, but zilipona, what's the difference? What causes them? Well, we'll answer those and other questions tomorrow, even as we entertain or engage a gastroenterologist and, of course, patients who have been living this reality. We'll see you then.